We're live, and this is the 26th episode of the e-commerce growth show. We're half on our way to become 1 year old. We've started this series of insights towards the e-commerce growth leaders, and today we have Ton all the way from the Netherlands. Hello, Ton.
Hello, Valentin.
So I'm happy to have you in this episode. Today we're going to speak about how to outperform your competitors by embracing evidence-based growth, how to reach product market fit to do research and run experiments, getting new clients by doing research and running experiments, and getting more lifetime value out of your customers. Guess how? By doing research and running experiments. Exactly. So Ton, he's the founder of Online Dialogue and the owner at A/B Test Guide. Ton, thanks a lot for being today with us.
Thank you very much for having me, Valentin. It's a pleasure to be here and have a full hour where we can discuss how to outperform your market, outperform your competitors.
Excellent. So let's start by giving us a bit of background about yourselves. How you got into the experimentation landscape? Let's talk a bit broader.
I'm quite old, so I've been working with websites since the 90s. And once I started building my own websites, once the first browsers came on the market, I fell in love with HTML. So I could create my own websites without having the need of a factory or publishing newspapers. I could just publish things myself on the web. And I had this own little server. And on that server, I was hosting my websites. And the server had log files. So I could just scroll through log files and see what people were downloading from my website, what they were clicking on. So that specific part of websites, the data part, was the one that really attracted me the most. So I started becoming an analyst. I started my first jobs in internet companies, still in the 90s. And then I think around like 2002 or something, A/B testing came to the marketplace in an old-fashioned JavaScript redirects thingy. Like really nasty, but what I did until then was just look at my data, look what people were clicking on, and then change something on the website, and then 1 week later again look at the data to see what people clicked on. With having a university background, I knew this was not the perfect setup. This is not the perfect setup to do research on consumer behavior. So once I was able to run A/B experiments, I could like shift half of the traffic to one version and the other half to the other version, and then compare the outcomes. So external influencers were way lower than in this 0-1 testing setup. So and when I was able to do that, to run experiments and see outcomes, that's really addicting. Because that's like solving puzzles. Like you have an ID, and nowadays we have hypothesis and the whole framework. But back then I just had IDs, and I threw them in the machine, and then I got the results. And based on the results, I get some insights, and then I could optimize again. So it's solving the puzzle of having a digital channel or website or even email or whatsoever, and optimizing this backed up by data. That's so much fun to do. That's something that's my hobby. I like to optimize digital things and build them and grow them. It's really addicting and fun to do. So once I was in there, I never stopped doing experiments anymore. So I'm in this experimentation business now for almost 20 years, and I still like it, and I will still be there for the next 20 years.
Well, so it's a long life experiment.
Yes. It's I'm learning to also do more experiments out of the digital channels to optimize other things too. But yes, in the end, it's a life of learning, and how better to learn than to back this up with data.
Yeah. So, Ton, regarding the e-commerce landscape, what do you think e-commerce entrepreneurs or managers are missing out these days, and which aspects would you change if you would have a magic wand?
Their love for data, of course. It's to me, if you're in e-commerce, you have three big challenges, and
Yeah,
you already stated them from the beginning. Like the first challenge, of course, if you start new, is your product market fit. Who are you? Who's your identity? What is your identity? What are you selling to what group of people? And this is something you can work on with doing research and running experiments. But I see a lot of entrepreneurs that are starting e-commerce platforms, web shops,
yeah,
from their passion, which is a good thing. I think that's a better reason to start than I just want to make money. The combination should be the perfect one. This is my passion, and I want to make money.
yeah,
But they start this without doing proper research. So it could be that they're working their asses off for like 2 years in a row, day and night, in a specific niche, a specific product, or a specific market segment,
yeah,
where there's a little amount of potential success. And of course, you can always be lucky and be that one that has a big success. But it seems to make more sense to me to do more research and try your hypothesis, challenge your riskiest assumptions when you start this business by doing experiments and learning if it could be a product market fit way sooner than having been working day and night for 2 years in a row. So data, but also not only starting once you grow and are attracting customers, making decisions based on data. Once you have customers and you want to enlarge the lifetime value of those customers, back this up with data. Base your decisions not on your gut feel. So if I would have the magic thingy, I would get rid of not all the gut feel. There are some things where gut feel is really good at, but I will lower it down on making business decisions and throw data in to make better business decisions.
yeah. So why do you think it's happening? I mean, we have on one end, we have the entrepreneurs which are willing to make more money or are passionate about doing things, but they lack, let's say, the mentalities and the data-driven approach to test their hypotheses. But what makes them being in this behavior? Because it's obvious for many of them, it's obvious that things are not exploding, they are not hitting the product market fit, but they still are consistent, because without perseverance you're not an entrepreneur, right? But why do you think this is happening? Because there are a lot of contenders which are not making the cut.
I believe the biggest mistake decision makers are making in growing their company, entrepreneurs or C-level managers or whatsoever, is that they believe that data-driven marketing or data-driven products or evidence-based decision making is a technical thing, that you need data and you need tools and they need more data, they need more tools, and the tools are not in place yet. And so they blame it on the lack of data and the lack of tools. But to quote David Vismans, who is the chief product officer of Booking.com, and Booking.com is a well-known Dutch company who's running lots of experiments.
Yeah.
He was interviewed by Stefan Tomko, who wrote the book Experimentation Works, which is a really nice read to go through. He was quoted by saying, large-scale experimentation is not a technical thing, it's a cultural thing. And what always strikes me is that the entrepreneurs I'm speaking to, the decision makers I'm speaking to, they know that they need to grow, they need to optimize, and from the heart they have a DNA or approach that is experimentation driven, because they tried. They started the company, which is trying something. So that culture is already there, and if they embrace that culture of trying and failing and moving forward in the company, that's how you become a data-driven decision-making company. It's from the heart. It's in your culture, and then the tools will come because you need the tools, and of course you need the data. But if you start with the data and the tools, that's not. You have to start with the mindset. I think that's. And the fun thing is, the entrepreneurs have that mindset, but for some reason, they forget about it once they start throwing tasks to the people they hire.
Yeah. Ton, regarding we promised to our audience to learn something about outperforming their competitors in by this evidence-based growth. But what is evidence-based growth?
That's a good question. Of course, the thing I would like to draw, I have this nice old-fashioned flip over here,
Yeah.
is what is called the pyramid of evidence. So this is the pyramid.
Yeah.
And what you have over here is what we call the risk of bias. And over here, I'll have the quality of evidence. And the fun thing is, if you go up the pyramid, you have a lower risk of bias. So this is low. And all the way down, you have a high risk of bias. And on this side, the quality of evidence over here is really high. And over here is really low. And of course, you can now imagine what's in that pyramid. On this layer is the expert opinion. So that's me looking at your website without any data to back up, and just based on gut feel, experience. I think there should be a call to action over here. I think this product image of your shop should be bigger for some reason. It's an opinion. An opinion has a really high risk of bias. I'm saying this because of some things, and it is a really low quality of evidence. And all the way on the top is A/B testing. It has the lowest risk of bias, so the highest quality of evidence. So if you're able to base your decision on a A/B experiment, then you're way better off than base that decision on an expert opinion. And even on top here, you have like what we call the systematic review of randomized controlled trials. And the randomized controlled trials an A/B experiment or different kind of experiment. So if you have run like 100, 200 experiments, then you can do a systematic review and really gain insights about consumer behavior. And so outperforming your competition is a matter of gaining evidence. If you have more evidence, you will be able to outperform the competitor that has less evidence. If you look at Klaus Schwab, the chairman of the World Economic Forum, he's always telling that in the old world, it was the big fish eating the small fish. But nowadays, it's the fast fish eating the slow fish. And sometimes people think that this means that they should be a small company that's agile and can move really fast. And they are way better to compete than the big giants, mammoth companies that are slowly moving from left to right, if they're moving at all. But that's not completely true. The fast fish are the ones that gain lots of high quality evidence. And the slow fish are the ones without any evidence. So if you look at companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, what they do is they build up more data. They buy companies to get more data, because once they have more data, they can make more decisions. They are speeding up the number of experiments they're running really fast. And I'm not saying everything should be an experiment. If you're lower in data, surveys, cohort analysis are also around here. If you look at the pyramid of evidence on the web, you will see the full pyramid. There are more types in here, but get away from this one. Get more evidence, because once you have more evidence and gain evidence faster, then you can outperform your competitor, because then you know about consumer behavior, about market behavior, how to create more lifetime value from your customers. It's all in here. You need to collect more evidence.
Yeah, Ton, I wanted to ask you something regarding the, let's say, the sample size. Sometimes you have mid-size e-commerce companies which lack the traffic, let's say, to test on the checkout page, because they have, I don't know, 1,000 people a week on the buying their stuff. So that means the testing cycle would be too long. what do you propose to overcome this challenge?
What if I tell in my presentations that a company like Booking is doing 1,000 concurrent tests, so they're doing like 20,000 experiments per year. Probably Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon are doing the same. But if you have such a large group of experiments, everyone always goes like, but I don't have 20,000 IDs to experiment on. Not even talking about the data yet, but I don't have the IDs. But if you look at what they do, that's roughly something like this. This is what we call validation. Let's take the whole part. This is called research, and this is optimization. Most people think of A/B testing as optimization, and if you're really mature, you probably do research, hypothesis-based research on certain behavior. But mostly it's optimization, changing the layout, changing the button structure, filter structure on your search or whatsoever. But these big companies do lots of validation. And within validation, it's not about getting wins. Optimization is understanding if you can find something that has a significant impact on your conversion rate or lifetime value. But validation is making sure if you release something, if you push something live from development, that is not hurting the business. And they don't ship anything without validating it. It doesn't make sense if you push something live without any numbers, without being an experiment, without being an A/B test. Even if you only have like 50 conversions in A and 50 conversions in B, that's a low amount of data, you can still push it out as an A/B experiment to be sure it's not hurting the business. It could be that your B variation is going down to like 30 conversions. And then you're sure you don't want to push this live. If you just ship without validation, that's like if you are an agile company and shipping really fast, then you're running, which is good. But shipping without validation, that's like running with your eyes closed. You will fall down. Doesn't make sense. So please understand, if you're low in numbers, you can still, everything that's being pushed, that's being shipped, every piece of code can be still be an experiment. It's what we call non-inferiority testing, to be sure you're not hurting the business with something you're shipping. And of course, the question about data. So you can have low data here. Here you need higher data, because to be able to find a significant uplift, you've got to have, that's a rule of thumb, like 1,000 conversions per month. If you are below 1,000 conversions per month, and a conversion could be like an e-commerce transaction, it could also be an email lead, that's a conversion. Even a click on your ad could be seen as a conversion, but it's kind of low quality conversion. If you're below 1,000, it's really hard to run experiments, because the chance of finding a significant impact is so low that you probably need to run like 20 experiments before you find something, and then you don't know for sure if it's not a false positive. So if you're on that axis, if you're below that 1,000 conversions, your optimization, for some reason, someone decided to draw something on like nothing. If you're so low on conversions, you cannot optimize your website on A/B testing. You should do it on like user survey input, feedback sessions, interviews, usability testing, data cohort analysis. Data is still here, because that's not what people say. What people say, consumers, not the experts. So valid
Customer
survey,
voice.
customer voices. That's still important. So data is more important. From risk of bias and quality of evidence perspective. So if you're not able to optimize based on A/B experiments, just think of what you want to change based on customer voice, based on the data you have, and you can come up with something you want to change. But then if you change it and you ship it, you're still going to ship it as an experiment, because you want to validate it to make sure it doesn't hurt your business. I've seen so many companies making this mistake, but just based on research, shipping something. And of course, somewhere in the translation from usability test inputs to designer outputs, that there's a lot of noise. Also, designer has a risk of bias. So they push something live, and we're really happy because we shipped something. Let's celebrate that we shipped something. and then in the end, the conversions go down. But it's really hard to see because it goes down from like 50 per month to 40 per month, and then you're not sure it's because of the change. If you have run this as an experiment, then at least you will get some signals that will tell you, oh, this is not behaving like we were expecting. We were expecting like the same amount of conversions. And so at least you have some data to back up their decisions, because I've seen too many mistakes of companies just going down because they didn't use data to back up their decisions. So still validated.
I love that. So to let's say emphasize on what you've just told us, Ton, it's not about your own opinions. It's not even about the expert opinions. It's about evidence-based. That you can get the best evidence-based is actually optimizing, testing, right? Like you like you have it over there. So doing an A/B test will give you the clearest way to understand if your hypothesis was the right one, and if the uplift is there, you will actually see it in the numbers. What is also important to emphasize is that you don't always need to A/B test, so you can also use customer voice, cohort analysis, data from your web analytics tools, and so on. However, the need for a process is there, and we are seeing a lot of extremely well documented experiments which are not moving the needle. We see a lot of winners which don't get implemented by the companies. So what's your take on the we've talked about the mentality of the decision makers. We've talked about the importance of data and A/B testing. Let's talk a bit about the process of experimentation, Tom.
Yeah, I'm taking two points from your question. I think the first one is about implementing. There are many companies out there that run a successful A/B testing program, come up with all sorts of winners, but then they're not getting implemented by the developers or IT department, product team, cross-functional team, whatever you're having. That's a real nightmare. Because why are you? Hopefully, you're getting insights from the hypothesis you were testing, and you're able to feed those insights to the marketing team, so that they can build better campaigns and AdWords. Maybe at least some value there. But if it's not getting implemented, then something is fundamentally wrong. Stop doing what you're doing. And I've been lucky to be helping companies for the last like 20 years with setting up experimentation, and I've made many mistakes. Usually we will start at marketing or products and come up with ideas, and then get stuck with IT because they were not implementing. What my advice is nowadays, if I help companies setting up a culture of experimentation, is the first thing we have to do is get development on board. The people that develop, that ship codes, that are able to push the button to release something, those are the ones where we should start. Because once they believe in the fact that every line of code that they're going to ship should be shipped as an experiment, then we're done. Because then we never have to convince marketing or product again that they should run experiments, because everything they ship is an experiment. And then in the end, you will find out which teams are really doing well and which teams are not doing so good, so they need more training or whatever you want to do with them. So start with development. So if you are at that bottleneck, that you were already experimenting, but IT is deprioritizing your wins because the things they're working on are way more important or bigger, or the new app has to go through first before they change something on the layout of your search page. Start talking. Because if you talk to it depends on the size of your company, but if your company is so big that you have a CTO, if you start talking to the CTO or the lead development and explain your road to the future, that you want to ship everything as an experiment, they will come to the same conclusion, telling you, yes, that's exactly the approach we want to have, because we are responsible for uptime, for quality, for everything that's from the technological side of the e-commerce shop.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure too that if we release something that is good, so we want to test too. We don't want to test specifically conversion rates. We want to test other stuff, but it's the same approach. So if you speak to them, they will have the same insights. So and once you have the same roads to go to, then it's quite easy to implement that. And then you don't have to worry again about not implementing something. And I think the good thing is also that we're moving a bit away from client side to server side. There's a big discussion going on over here. But even if you test client side, many experiments nowadays are being built as code being shipped already. So it's just a 0-1 trigger on the website that's changing the state. Or you're in the B group, so you're seeing state 1 of the website, or you're in the default group, you're seeing state 0 of the website. So then once you have a winner, it can be automatically already be shipped, because then the default state becomes number 1. And then you're done. So hopefully this also helps getting rid of this problem, because if you're facing this, if nothing gets implemented, stop doing what you're doing and don't worry about your next experiments.
Yeah, I think it's optimizing your own process is the key here. And if you're looking for your own conversions as a team to experiment on the website, I think your conversions would be winner tests, which gets live, actually implemented as the default state.
Yeah, true.
That's your last conversion. And your funnel, it's always being affected by other teams within your company. I mean, there are the developers, there are the gatekeepers, and I think those should be on your side. And in order to have them on your side, of course, you must talk to them and you must onboard them in your process. But many companies have this, let's say, silos or schizoid approach, like, hey, get this code, put it live because it's a winner. How come it's a winner?
Even nowadays, I believe most e-commerce shops are now running on a platform like Shopify. So the ease of changing something is that's getting better and better. I cannot say it's already a no-code e-commerce shop environment, but it's getting close. Being able to find people that are able to ship the things that needs to be shipped is getting easier and easier. So the second thing I took from your question you stated before my first answer is what I've also learned. The first learning is speak to developers as soon as possible, because in the end, they're the ones pushing code. The second thing is that I've seen many companies starting with one conversion optimizer or one digital marketer that does something with data. Then it grows at some point to a growth team or a conversion optimization team. And a conversion optimization team is fun. I've been there. I'm addicted to running A/B experiments and optimizing a website and trying to understand why certain behavior is happening. So this is a fun team. And what I've seen in most companies, that this specific team has some really proud winning people. Right? They are the ones that they want to go forward and change things, and they have a big voice in the company. They're not introvert, they're extrovert, and they're really good in convincing people that they should get more money to make the team even bigger. And they're making money for the company too. They're making money because with the experiments, and if they're able to get them implemented, that's even better. But they're really valuable to the company. But at some point, you will understand that if you get bigger, that every marketing team, every product team should be running experiments. Even the customer service department should be running experiments. Even the packaging department should be running experiments. So you have all these teams in the company. And CRO people always draw their view of the company like this. This is the whole company. CRO is in the middle. I do it like this. and then all the other departments like product service and so on are the smaller departments. Even if they have 200 people and they are with 5, they still make this size as their department. So they are really, really proud. And at some point, if you want to grow experimentation in your company, if you want to move to the next level, really well clarified in the experimentation workbook by Stephen Tumke. At some point, once there is belief and there is some sort of a framework, you want to move on. So then what happens in many companies is they are trying to teach those departments how to run experiments. So their marketing team or their product team, this is how you should run experiments. This is where you should experiment on. This is how you should do it. This is how you should use data to base your decisions on. And in the beginning, they will make mistakes. They're new to the game. They will make statistical mistakes, bad hypotheses. They start doing button color testing and so on. So they will tell them, "Oh, that's wrong. That's really bad. You are really bad at running experiments. You almost like go away. You're not good at this." And this is not the way to get experimentation in the whole company, because in the end it makes sense. The decision makers are seeing, okay, this is good. They're making money. Now everyone needs to adapt this approach of experimentation and data-driven decision making. So they're using them to teach everyone. But in the end, they're all running away because they hate it. They hate the way this group is behaving, because these are the winners. And once they become teachers, they should become enablers. They should be humble. They should allow departments to make mistakes. And not tell them what they're doing wrong, but tapping them on the back and saying, good, you've run your first experiment, even if the outcome is rubbish and it's not getting implemented. You're on the way. Because in the end, like I said, there are 200 people over here, big company example, 400 people over here, 100 over here, and only 5 over here. They can only run like 200 experiments per year. They can only make 400 decisions per year. If you really want to scale this in your company, everyone should embrace this. Because if you are with like 800 people making decisions, then you're making decisions on the speed of Google, Amazon, and so on. Everyone needs to embrace this. And they should become a small, what we call center of excellence, somewhere on the side, supporting those teams in running experiments. They should take care of the trustworthiness of the data. They should take care of the tools, the quality of the tools, the user-friendliness of the tools. They should come up with courses, explain them, but they should be the ones running all those experiments and making those decisions and using those tools, being enabled by a center of excellence. And this step is never the step where people start with. They always start with a centralized team, which is good. It's the first step, but make sure, if you look at the people in the team, if there are these proud champions, at some point, if you have to grow bigger, take them out of that team and put them in those teams, in the marketing teams and the product teams, because there you need winners. That team should be a team of people that are enablers, that are happy at the end of the day if they were able to teach, or even when they see that someone is learning and making steps, or even making failures, and they're the ones that are enablers to the company. Really important change in that specific centralized group.
Yeah, I love that, Ton, and I totally agree with you. And this transition should be made consciously by the company. So I think this also can happen only if the culture of experimentation is at the top of the company, because there is a transition that should be happening and a transformation of those CRO people from being experimenters to becoming trainers and guides and mentors for the decision makers within various departments. And mainly what I see as a successful approach is to start from the beginning by being customer centric, because if you put the customer in the center, then you understand that it's not only about fixing the website and leaving the CRO team to handle the website and touch slightly the fulfillment, the customer support, the product inventory and assortment, and so on.
Yeah, it's I think if you're still in a company or even starting a new company that is not embracing this culture of evidence-based growth or data-driven decision making, if you look at yourself, what you want as an entrepreneur, and how you want your team to grow, you also want to be an enabler. Of course, you want to be the one with the vision and the ideas, but what you're doing is you're trying this market, you're trying that market. So your approach is already an experimentation approach. And if you think of the best people you can hire for your team, your first staff people, your first employers, you want to hire people with a growth mindset. You want to hire people with the same mindset. But then the trouble, and I've been through this myself in my agency, the trouble is if you hire those kind of people, they start doing things you don't want them to do. Because your vision is, oh no, I believe, my gut feel, it should be this way. But they have a growth mindset, so they want to find out their own way. which in the end is really good, because if I end up with only people that are waiting for me to tell them what to do, that's not scalable. You want to have self-starters, entrepreneurs, and you have to give them room to make mistakes, to learn, because I had the same learnings that formed me 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So they need room to make those mistakes. So if you're able to hire those people, and they also have this mindset of trying and failing fast, failing forward, going faster, experiment, well, then you're already halfway, or even already on 75% of the company you want to build, because then you're building a company on a culture of growth, on a culture of experimentation. Then you are building a company with people that will look at you. So you want to ship codes on our main product or our e-commerce shop without testing. That's like the pharmacy business. Shipping new drugs without being tested up front. Oh no, that's killing people. Okay, but we are shipping codes. We are shipping our product. We are changing our product without being tested. Don't you think that's hurting the product? Don't you think we're doing something better? So if you already have that mindset, then it totally makes sense to hire technical people that are just basing everything on data and shipping everything on data. And so maybe you're even in a luxury position if you're starting right now, or still are growing the company, or the DNA is not yet in the company, that you can start working on that right now. Let go, let them make the decisions. Make sure there's a centralized team that's really good in statistics and knows about tooling, knows about the right A/B testing approaches, knows about data cores, how to really do this on a trustworthy way. They are important to enable this, to open this up in the company, and then let all those entrepreneurs and growth mindset people run with the tools you give them and grow your company. And you just can sit down and the magic happens.
Yeah. Ton, regarding this approach, I think it's also you've also touched the fact that evidence-based growth happens if you let's say step aside, if you have the ability to get out of the way of your own people, and if you select people which can be self-driven, let's say, without waiting for you to direct like a movie director, and they never know the script. And I think this has a lot to do with you as an entrepreneur admitting that you don't have all the answers, and it takes humbleness to do that. And it's also you need a bit of let's say letting go of the control, right? So letting your people do the mistakes instead of you making all the mistakes.
That's a really big skill. Even I have a hard time letting go of things. I think it's almost a human reaction to not letting go something too easy. I also had to learn that I'm really good at some stuff, but not good at other stuff. And if you look at, for instance, my role within a experimentation and CRO team, I am not the enabler. I'm not part of the center of excellence. I could be a trainer explaining people what to do, but then I have to move out, because if I still see them failing after 2 times, my patience will be gone. So I'm a person that should be like in a product team or in a market team, where you give me a goal of, okay, we need to double conversion rate of new customers within the next 9 months. That's it. Yeah. This is the team. This is the money you have. And report on these kind of metrics. We will have like 3 monthly reviews, and that's it. Yeah, so give me that freedom. That's what I need with that team, and then I will run for that goal and get to that goal based on the evidence-based growth approach. That's my role, and then hopefully they have a team that's enabling all the tools, so we don't have to come up with thinking, okay, what survey tool do we need? What data tool do we need? How do we personalize stuff? How do we segment stuff? That should be taken care of. But there's a different role in the company. That's not my role. So everyone has his role, and it takes time to find out your own role. Especially if you have younger people in your company, it's an interesting game of helping them getting on the path of their specific strengths. But once you have that growth mindset approach and indeed are, well, like you said, have learned that letting go is in the end giving you more value than not letting go, then you're on the right track.
Yeah. Ton, I want to touch a subject which is let's say really crucial to me in the landscape of e-commerce growth. I've identified at some point, and let me give you some context. 4 years ago, I've identified. I had a close friend, the e-commerce manager of a larger shoe retailer. They were making experiments. We were helping them out with our technology and assistance, and they've got to a point where the revenue per visitor was going down, the conversion rate was going up with a few experiments, and they've reached a plateau. So they, from our experience, they couldn't improve the metrics that they got without making something differently. So it was like they were running a lot of tests. They were doing this for already, I think, 2 or 3 years, and we got to a point where we realized that doing A/B testing and analyzing samples of clusters of visitors and giving them a different experience, which was not that personal and relevant to them, was not moving the needle on the long run. And we also realized the importance of being relevant by analyzing the relation that the company has with the customer. And that's how we've got to this customer centricity approach, by using first-party data. And we finally understood that maybe we don't need to improve the conversion rate, because this improving it can be actually toxic for the company. The profitability and the margin goes down, and conversion rate goes up. So we finally realized that CLV is the North Star metric that they should be optimizing. What's your take on this, and how do you see this transition? Because we definitely think that there's a transition that should happen from fixing websites to becoming customer centric and improving CLV instead of the conversion rate.
Yeah, agree. Conversion rate is a strange metric anyway, because if you want to optimize your conversion rate, probably if you stop your affiliate traffic from going to your website, if you have affiliate traffic, and you just black them out from your analytics tool or even from your website, then your conversion rates will go up. Hooray, we have a higher conversion rate, but in the end, we are selling less. But I totally agree,
Yeah.
because even with selling, which products do you need to sell? Do you want to sell? And which products will lead to a higher customer lifetime value? I like pyramids because they make stuff easy. Picking the right KPI or OEC, key performance indicator, overall evaluation criterion. It's a hard thing. There are still many teams basing what they do on clicks. I'm running this AdWords campaign. If I optimize it and it gets more clicks to the landing page, then my job is done. And of course, if you go up here, at some point somewhere, you'll have transactions, which is good for an e-commerce store. At least that's money coming in.
Yeah.
And maybe even profit margin is more up there. And somewhere in between, I'm always discussing if changing behavior should be here or here. But if you're talking about behavior, okay, I want to move people from having 2 product page views to 3 product page views, then it's up here, because then transactions are more important. But all the way on the top, of course, is customer lifetime value. The trouble is, of course, that how do we measure customer lifetime value? How to know if I run an experiment now, if I change something on my website, how does it impact customer lifetime value? because in the end, I can only see like 5 years from now if something I did in the end really worked out. So you have to come up with predictive analytics. You have to come up with a model that really understands if the stuff you're doing is attracting the right type of customers. If you know from your database that customers from a specific region in your country or a specific country are in the end more valuable looking at data in the past than other countries, then you want to attract more of those people because they bring a higher customer lifetime value. If you know that the specific segments of behavior are buying more products or are getting back more often, then they bring more lifetime value. So there are models that you can build to come up with the right approach and really understand if this is going on. But this is the new way. People are talking about this already for a couple of years, that we should move out from here and move up to here. But nowadays, most companies just focus on transactions, which is a lot better than clicks. So luckily, we're already in the transaction phase, but this is short term. This is short term. I once created a model, a 3-step model for conversion optimization, where step 1 was optimization focused on transactions. Make more revenue now. And then, of course, the next step, the first order learning is understanding consumer behavior. When do they buy with you? Why do they buy with you? How can you convince them to buy more? And then the next step, that's what we call second order learning. That's the highest step. Then you really understand customer behavior. Then you really understand your customers. You have the data on what they do and how much money they bring you. So you know upfront that, okay, but if we need to reach out on the phone to this person because this person is so special for our shop. We need to become friends, almost one-on-one marketing, and we're slowly moving there. But of course, you also know very well that most tools, and of course, you have the enterprise solution where you're paying millions to enterprise software, where you can do this kind of stuff. The modeling department at Amazon is quite big. But if you're smaller, the tools are not there yet. So it's good to see that you are moving also in this direction and coming up with solutions for a bigger audience to base the decisions not on transactions but on customer lifetime value.
Yeah, Ton, regarding the let's say things that you would be doing first. Let's presume you change your job, right? So let's presume someone is so let's say skilled at persuading you, and you end up becoming the growth person into an e-commerce, into a mid-size e-commerce player. Tell us the first things that you would be doing there.
Am I the growth lead or just the one and only growth specialist in the team?
You are the growth lead, let's say. So you have a team beside you, and you can do whatever you please. Let's pretend that you're the right hand of the founder CEO.
Oh, nice.
So you have let's get rid of the political stuff, right? Let's presume you have this power to change things around.
Of course, the first two things I want to do is e-commerce is a business, is a dialogue. That's what we call it, online dialogue, between the business and the consumer.
Yeah.
So to be able to optimize that dialogue and to grow the company, I need to understand the business and I need to understand the consumer. So understanding the business is just a matter of talking to the CEO. Understand why are you here? What's your identity? Why this market? What are your beliefs? What have you learned? And talking to the other people to get some insights on the company side of things. And then I'll dive in the data. Hopefully, I have a really good analyst in my team, maybe even a data scientist, and start analyzing consumer behavior. Who are our consumers? What groups? What segments? What markets? How old are they? Where do they live? How often do they buy? I want to understand the full scope of the consumers. And once that picture becomes clear, you probably already are able to pinpoint if there are loopholes. Like, okay, this is like a valuable segment, but we never run any advertisement on that specific segment. Okay, first set of experiments is going to be running more advertisements on that specific segment of users to see if we can get them in, because they bring value to the company. They are important for our growth. So based on the loopholes from talking to the owners, understanding the company, the data, understanding the consumers, I will come up with hypotheses and start running experiments and start growing.
Yeah. Excellent. So in your opinion, are there any is this a matter of tweaking things, or do you look for low-hanging fruits, or you do a radical restructuring of the mentality of the company? Or to put it more bluntly, do you think without restructuring and without building momentum, can an e-commerce company change its destiny and scale dramatically?
It depends is, of course, the right answer. It depends on the structure and the culture of the company. If the mindset of continuously optimizing is already there, then probably we'll have a different approach, and they probably already found the right product market fit.
Yeah.
And if that mindset is not there. But to understand if there's the right product market fit, you want to do some experiments to understand if you're in the right segments, the right products, the right people, and so on. If that's not there, if based on experiments we're going to find out that it's not the right product market fit, then we have to make radical changes, and then we need to speak to the CEO, like say, okay, the part this company is taking now in this market segment with these products is not the part of the large growth you want to achieve. If you want to stay a niche e-commerce shop of 10 people in this specific segment because that's what you love, fine. That's a decision for you to make as business leader. But if you want to grow bigger, we would like to invest time to understand in what market segments are the best ones to be in, what products to deliver. And once that fit is there, then we can scale more rapidly. So it's always that if that first question is not there, then it doesn't make sense that, like we say in the Netherlands, if you're still trying to drag the dead horse out of the corridor, there's no use. If the horse is dead, and optimizing the horse doesn't matter because it will still stay a dead horse.
Yeah, I get it. I got the picture. And I think what you're stating here is there's no motivation and objective, and if the company is not optimizing for long-time growth, you pretty much can't do anything. And if you've got tricked and persuaded to become the growth lead in that company, I think you should optimize your life and get rid of that environment because it's not helping.
That's true. I have been running the Experimentation Culture Awards recently. I was hosting it and jury chair. And I had many conversations with people enrolling for the Experimentation Culture Awards. And what stuck to me is that most experimentation leads that were working at really high mature experimentation companies, they told me it's not because of me that this culture is there. Of course, I started 7 years ago when the company was smaller, but I started working for this company because I wanted to work for them because of the culture they have. So the culture was already there, and that convinced me to sign up for that company, and then we were able to grow. If I would have found out after 2 years or 1 year that culture was not there, then I would have known that I'm not the one person that's able to change that whole cultural mindset in a large company. So I would have moved out. It's a battle for talent. If you want to attract the people that have this growth mindset and grow your company, but you're just sitting around making money, then you really have to give them the space to make mistakes and to try and to experiment, because that's the only way forward. And if you don't give them that space to have this experimentation culture, then they will move out and start working for your competitor that will outgrow you before you outgrow them.
Yeah. Ton, I want to touch a subject with which is, for me, it was somehow mind-blowing. I've understood a pattern of e-commerce entrepreneurs which were stuck, so they couldn't grow anymore, and the pattern was like this. So they were relying all their efforts into paid media. So they were doing this tweaking of PPC Facebook. They were trapped in a single channel strategy. They were updated like crazy about the Facebook moves, the Instagram ads, or anything around the ads. So they had this bias, let's say, that if they are to grow their company, they need to nail down the Facebook algorithm to decipher it, and then they will grow. And of course, that was somehow for me was intriguing, because they were not doing other channels, they were not optimizing the customer journey, they were not listening to their customers, they weren't identifying the best products that were keeping their customers happy. But so they were not doing a lot of stuff. However, they were data driven. They were looking at the CPC, they were doing all these things right, but they were not, let's say, experimenting and not changing the perspective.
Yeah, it's familiar. I think that this is the biggest reason why you should hire external people, consultants, agencies, doesn't matter, because they will be able to make sure, if you start looking like this and with this narrow mindset, you're not able to see yourself that you're doing this. It's the same for me. If I look at my agency, I'm also looking like this. So I love to talk with external advisors that will just look at the data and look at the numbers we're doing and tell me, well, this market segment, so you're not spending time to it, but it's already now at 20% of your revenue for 3 years in a row, and you're not spending any time at it. Maybe it's time to spend time at it to see if it can grow bigger. And I was just focused on this 80% narrow mindset, looking at specific stuff. So this is why you need to bring in knowledge from the outside that just looks at your company and wakes you up, because it's a pity that you're missing out so many opportunities. And in the end, I'm not a digital marketing specialist, so I cannot tell you if you should be on Instagram or on Facebook or whatsoever. The biggest lesson I've learned, I've met many digital marketing specialists presenting at conferences throughout the world, where I was talking about A/B testing and they were talking about social media channels and ad campaigns. And my biggest learning is that if you have a true identity in your company and a long-term vision that you're able to spread out, and you attract the right talent in your company that is also in love with your company and your brand, then it doesn't really matter, because in the end it will glow, and of course you can speed it up with ad campaigns, and that's even a good thing to do, because it will bring you more revenue or more money. But if that identity is not there, then it doesn't make sense to start advertising on something that's not going to grow in the future. So they are also looking at the lifetime value impact that company potentially can make.
Yeah, that's true. Ton, the last question for you is, what would you do differently to be more happy in your own life, applying your principles or not? So if you go back with the time machine, what would you do differently to be more happy at this moment? How would you optimize your own life? How would you experiment? What kind of experiments you would be doing earlier?
I did lots of sports until the age of like 25, somewhere 24. Really aggressive, like 10 days in a week training. And then after my study was done at university, I started working, and I became addicted to work. That became my new hobby. So I let go of the sports thing, which was fine for like the first 5, maybe even 10 years until 35. But then I really had to start sporting again, because I was getting fat. And even just running up and down the stairs or playing soccer with my son for 5 minutes, I had to catch my breath because I was not in shape enough. So it took a while before I was able to find a sport that's fun for me to do. So if I would go back in time, already when I stopped sporting aggressively, I wanted to have starting to run experiments on one thing. Stop having to win when you do sports, because there was a big hurdle to take. I'm now just sporting to get in shape. and to get fit. Experiment with that mindset, but also trying to find a sport that I really like to do, because going from 10 days 10 times a week to nothing, that's a way too big jump. So that took me 10 years and at least 10 kilos to understand what. So that's something I would have changed if I step in the time machine. Yeah.
Excellent. So Ton, thanks a lot for being today with us. Where can people reach out to find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Ton Wesseling. I already wrote it down somewhere in the beginning. Let's connect on Twitter, Ton W, LinkedIn, Ton Wesseling, or hit me on email, whatsoever. If you type my name online, you will find me, and please do reach out.
Excellent. So thanks a lot for being with us today, Ton, and thanks a lot for watching us today, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you, Valentin.
Bye.